Morning, it is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Glad to have you aboard. Orioles win last night, and nothing interesting happened. It was just a very casual victory. Very, they got an early lead and they won. That's all that I remember happening.
Bautista,
yeah,
his thing.
100%. Got 4 outs. Yanier Cano looked pretty good for an inning. I don't remember there being anything else of interest that occurred during the course of the game, and I definitely was never worried whatsoever at all. It's totally cool when you go up 7-0 and need to go to your A bullpen in order to hold on and win. They won.
That's why they had 2 days off this week. They wanted to make sure everybody got involved.
Yeah. They won, and they won against a very good team they're competing with to try to win the division, and that's what matters. So, I get it. It was better. We'll talk more about it. Coming up later on in the program, Mike Boddicker is going to join us. We kind of accidentally started doing a semi-regular sort of celebration of the 40th anniversary of the 1983 World Series, so we decided we would make it more formal, and we're going to try to catch up with different members of that team every week for the rest of the year. This started with John Miller a few weeks back when the Orioles were playing the Giants. Then we had Dennis Martinez on, and we were like, well, we're kind of doing it anyway. Actually, even beyond that, like we had Ken Singleton on, but we didn't even talk to him about it. So we'll have to revisit that at some point. We had Dempsey on, and we didn't even talk to him about it. So we'll have to revisit that. I wish I would have thought about it, a month ago, and we would have made it more formal then. But now we're thinking about it, and we're gonna do that moving forward, and Mike Boddicker will join us today. We're going to head out to San Diego. The World Lacrosse Championships get underway tonight when Team USA takes on Canada. Former Terp star, national champion, and now PLL star Matt Rambo will check in with us, and he's playing with Team USA as they take on Canada tonight, so we will preview the World Lacrosse Championships with Matt Rambo coming up a little bit later on, and of course, stuff and things. Today's show is brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. PressBox is offering new sports bettors the best sign-up bonuses and promos from the 7 legal online sports books here in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now and get offers like $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after you place your first $10 bet, or up to $1,250 in bonus bets from Caesars. Time is limited to get the best offers from all of the sports books. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers and sign up today. Look, obviously, you don't want to ever have a game in which you lead 7-0 and all of a sudden you wake up or you look up and it's 7-6 and you got to empty out your bullpen and you got to sweat it out in order to win a game 8-6. There's nothing good about that. But I am far more inclined to say I'm not going to flip out about it when it's a game on the road against the best team in baseball. There's a reason why the Rays are damn near unbeatable anywhere. I mean, it's unheard of to be winning more than 2/3 of your games, more or less in Tampa. A win in Tampa, no matter how you get it, is a really good win, or technically in St. Petersburg. It's not actually in Tampa, which is part of the problem they have. I of course, am disappointed that staked with a big lead, you couldn't have gotten a little bit more out of Kyle Bradish before you had to get him. I think the Bauman thing, now that we've seen this a couple of times recently, when he's supposed to be the stabilizer, because he's been largely quite good and hasn't been able to settle things down in the mid-innings, that's a bit disappointing because we go back to how many guys in this bullpen do you really have faith in? And it ain't a big number. And I get it. You're hoping that Dylan Tate can come help that at some point, and who knows if Michael Givens can come help that again at some point. But I can't lie. It's disappointing to see Mike Bauman, who had been so good to start the season, now have a few more outings where he's asked to slow the roll a little bit and hasn't been able to do it. Still, whatever you got to do, and yes, some of it was bad luck, right? They were They were
Mateo,
difficult plays. I mean, really, they were plays that would have been difficult to make, but were there to be made. Like Anthony Santander, given as good as he's been defensively in right field, you almost assume that he's going to make that play. So there were a few disappointing moments and balls that, even if they were difficult plays to make, you would have thought they could have been made last night. At least one of them, as the Rays were putting together was it a 4-run inning that they got back to 7-6 at that point?
2 in the 5th, and then 4 in the 6th.
You just, I don't know how much I put all of it on the pitchers, because at some point I do think some of those were plays that you could have made. The Mateo one is a really difficult play to make. It's an unbelievably difficult play to make. But the ball was on his glove, and he's only on the only value he brings is defensively. A base running, but he's got to be on base in order for that to be a value, and he hasn't done that very frequently. It's almost like you're grading on a curve. If you're going to be on the team, you've got to make that play. If you're Gunnar Henderson, you don't necessarily have to make that play because you're offering something otherwise. And Gunnar Henderson's played some really good defense of late, by the way. But if you're Jorge Mateo and the only reason why you have a job is because you're an outstanding defender, then we need you to go make exceptional plays. You got to be a little bit more than just, hey, do everything that's in front of you. You got to go make some crazy plays, or else what are you doing here? Still, there is something to be said for a team that, is probably a little bit shell-shocked having lost 7-6, but got back, went out and got another insurance run. Obviously, it was a big night for Aaron Hicks. It's been a big stretch for Aaron Hicks. It's kind of crazy that he's performed this well since he arrived in Baltimore, and his numbers are still so appalling on the year because he was just so dreadfully bad to start the season in New York. Every time they put up his batting average and it says like 243, I'm like, how? Isn't he hitting like 700 since he got to Baltimore?
He's up to 254 now.
I understand, but like, do they have? Is there a mix for what his numbers are in Baltimore and what his numbers were in New York?
All right, so
you can pull that up. It's somewhere.
340 with the Orioles.
340 with the Orioles.
188
it's
in New
insane.
York.
It's insane.
His OPS is over 1,000 here. It was 524.
Like, all you think about is Aaron Hicks, who's been, unbelievable, and then they put up his batting average the first time he comes to play. Like, when he hit the home run last night, they put up his batting average, and I don't think I had the sound on or I wasn't paying attention, and I was like, wait, what crummy guy is only hitting 243 in this lineup? Like, I didn't realize who it was. Then I'm like, oh, right, it's the thing because he was in New York. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
Look, obviously a big night for Aaron Hicks, and you're happy that the Orioles, despite trying to blow it, got their act together and ended up getting a big win. Now, does that cost them today? At Griffin's point, you're playing 2 games this week. I don't think because Felix Bautista pitched for 4 outs last night, that means he's unavailable today. It's awkward that it's a quick it's the quickest turnaround that you'll ever have between, non-doubleheader baseball games. But I don't think 4 outs last night makes Felix Bautista unavailable today. Like, if he had gone...
They both threw 19 pitches, Cano and Bautista.
I don't think either one of them's unavailable today. I think they're both absolutely available. Does it impact them? I don't know. This is the awkward part. You could really use some innings out of Tyler Wells because you didn't get any innings out of Kyle Bradish. But you also have an off day tomorrow, and you can kind of figure it out. I think everyone... How many pitches did Coulomb throw?
Coulomb threw 16. Bauman threw 13. Baker had 21.
I think they're all available.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them. Again, it'd be nice if you get 6 innings out of Tyler Wells, and it sort of sets things up. But, Also, they did this against Tyler Glasnow, who through his first 5 starts had looked really good.
Yeah.
Every ounce of this. I tell you what's really great about it is there's no way this can be a bad, it's the goofy nature of this 2-game series. You now know you can't do any real harm this week. It would have been harmful to have lost 2 games in Tampa. You're now 7 games back, and, it just – even if you come out of this and you're still in the same place that you were, no matter what, at the end of this, you're still going to be over 500 against the Rays for the season. You're going to feel good about your ability to compete with them, even if you lose today. If you win today, you're feeling – now you're 4-1 against the Rays, and you're within 3 games again in the division. And at that point, you'd be within, 1 in the loss column?
Yeah, let me pull up the standings.
Yeah, pull up the standings. I'm pretty sure it's make sure
it is, so we would hand them their 26th loss today,
and the
we
Orioles
would have 27.
Right.
So be within one.
You don't play for the team.
I do. You see the shirt?
I understand that, but you don't play for the team. They would be doing it. Why aren't you in St. Petersburg?
They didn't need me this week.
Really?
Yeah.
They optioned you
Yes.
before. It's weird how they optioned
They
you
said
back
they need me right here.
to press box.
Yes.
Like they're listening to transactions. They were like Spencer Watkins DFA, Jose Godoy option to Norfolk.
I don't know why I wasn't on the graphic.
Griffin Bass option to Towson.
Yes.
They're like, what? I don't understand. We got another assignment for him. It'll be fine. Like, okay, I guess if you insist, that's what we'll do. So that's all good news, and we go from there. It's funny. I have had this sort of feeling of where did they have to be at what point for the franchise to be willing to do certain things. And it was brought up to me again over the weekend when I was hanging out with some friends. Like, do you think it matters for them to be willing to make an aggressive move, make a big move for a pitcher? Do you think they have to be within X number of games in the division? Do you think that they believe the wild card matters enough that if they were to be – and I had never really given it much thought, right? Like, that part of it to me, as I keep saying, because I don't think you're trading for a rental, although, again, as we talked about yesterday, if you can trade a minimal amount for a rental piece, I guess I'd be willing to consider it. But to make a bold trade, I've always thought that because you were going to trade for somebody potentially that it kind of didn't matter where you were in the standings at this point this year. As long as you were competitive, as long as at this point, I mean, they have to basically lose every game between now and the end of July to not be in the argument for a wild card spot. As long as they were competitive in the playoff race, I would have thought the Orioles would have been willing to make that, at least willing to make a move if it was there. Are they willing to be more aggressive if, for example, if the Orioles win today, they're back within 1 game in the loss column of the Rays. And over the course between now and, say, the All-Star break, they close that gap even further, like they're back within 1 game of the Rays by the All-Star break. Does that make them more inclined to be turbo-aggressive? I don't know. I don't know. But it's interesting. And it's certainly, you would think, would have to be something that's in the back of their minds. We didn't think we were going to do this, but, we're doing it. I don't have those answers. And it's a fair question. It's a reasonable thing to discuss, is how does exactly where they are. Because it's one thing to be having a good season, to be in the mix. It's another thing to be staring down the team that looked like the runaway best team in the American League and to be going toe-to-toe with them and to be putting up some sort of a historic pace. And then are you really believing it's okay if the deal isn't there, or do you feel like you almost you're forced to make some sort of deal? I don't know. I'm talking through it because we're all talking through it. I hadn't spent a whole lot of thought on the subject until it was brought up to me this week. And I kind of at that point wanted to see how the series played out. And that's why to me this little 2-game goofy series was kind of significant. Which isn't to say that if they lose today that all of a sudden I'm like, meh, forget it. They're not going to. Because, again, it still matters even if they lose today, that they at least split this series. They at least stayed. The arguments are all still there that they can play with the Rays for the rest of the season, that they can hang in this thing somehow, some way. And there's growing evidence that the teams, the Yankees and the Blue Jays, who everybody thought were more likely, and I believe the odds makers would still tell you are more
Literally,
likely.
when they throw up the playoff percentages.
Can you
it's
can you pull up like the AL East odds on FanDuel at this point and see if they've moved? Because I'm pretty sure the Orioles were still the third or the fourth favorite. I gotta think that at some point they have no choice but to see what's happening and adjust the odds. But I haven't looked at them. I know what you're talking about. It's like the ESPN playoff percentage.
So the
thing.
Rays are still minus 600 right now.
I mean, to an extent, I understand that because what that's calculating is not just where they are, but also it's calculating the fact that going into the season they were believed to be the team to beat in the division.
Plus 1100 for the Yankees.
The second favorite.
Yes, the second favorite.
Sure.
Orioles are plus 13.
And what are the standings at the moment? Where are they? How many games back are they?
They're 9.5 back of Tampa.
9.5 back.
5.5 back of
Yes.
the Orioles.
9.5 back.
I almost said us.
Yeah, thank you. 9.5 games back, second favorite.
And
in
then,
the division.
yes, and then the Orioles are plus 13.
So they've moved ahead of the Blue Jays.
Yes, they have.
Oh,
Blue Jays
day.
are plus 1,700
Big day.
via FanDuel, and then the Red Sox way down plus 15,000.
Okay.
But they're only a half game back of the Blue Jays right now. The Red Sox are. So I don't know what they say. I mean, they're 4 games over 500
But
right
again,
now.
remember, in a lot of those odds, it's them defaulting to what they thought was going to happen
Yeah.
before the season began. That, hey, we still think that on paper these teams are better. And part of it with the Yankees is they're going to say, yes, but they've gone into this little dive without Aaron Judge, and we think they're going to get Aaron Judge back before too long, and they'll be a better team. Of course, the Orioles are likely to get Cedric Mullins back in a few days. So Mullins played last night, correct?
The game got rained out.
Oh, it got rained out.
So no one played.
No one played. But both Mullins and Mountcastle were in the
yes,
lineup
they were.
for Norfolk.
They were batting 1 and 2 in
last
Norfolk,
night.
Yeah.
So presumably they'll both play today.
Yes.
And
they have
then
a doubleheader tomorrow. Norfolk does.
That's making up for last night's
making
game?
up for last night.
Okay, so they'll play tonight and then doubleheader tomorrow. I don't know if they'll play both games or whatever the plan will be, and we will see what that means and how long their stay will be. Remember when Dylan Tate and Michael Givens originally were down there for forever? You were like, is this the longest rehab stint of all time? But keep in mind that was because they didn't have a spring training.
Right.
And they were sort of using the rehab stint as a spring training as well as a rehab. It's not the same thing. Because Mullins has been out a little bit longer, you could see why maybe they would want him there maybe even through the weekend, right? Like just getting a few more at-bats, making sure again, some of it's going to be about how he feels. Maybe if, he looks good, he feels good, they don't need him down there. But
I mean, it's been 3 weeks, I think, or like Monday was 3 weeks.
Since it wasn't necessarily an injury with Mountcastle, I would think that it's a harder argument.
Get a bat in his hands.
Yeah, it's a harder argument to keep him down for very long because he didn't actually get hurt. And I think vertigo is a real thing. I think everybody's ever been through it. I think that's definitely way more of as long as he feels good and swings a bat and all, then you kind of have to make a decision from there, and that'll get us into a Would You Rather Wednesday scenario that's going to come up here in a minute, and I don't want to give it away because, why would I want to give it away? That would be very silly. Anything else we need to cover Orioles-wise?
I don't know. Do you think they should have put Bradish back out there to start the 6th?
This is the awkward. Like, I could. It definitely did not look like Bradish was sharp, but part of that is he's facing the Rays lineup, and kind of no matter who you put out there, you're still facing the Rays lineup.
Right.
So
he was at 92 pitches. Like, you at least start him in the 6th, and
he'd struck out how many guys? 8 guys?
Struck out
8 guys?
He had 8 strikeouts.
Like, early, he looked good.
Yeah.
Like, early in the game, he looked really good.
He had the long 3rd inning.
Right.
Worked out of it.
Right.
And then
But, like, he worked out of it with strikeouts. Like, he worked out of it with stuff.
Right.
Like, he put the 2 runners on base, and then
he made a Rosarena
dude,
look foolish.
that backdoor slider was ridiculous. With nobody out and 2 runners on base. That was an absurd pitch. Just an absolutely ridiculous pitch. Like, that's as good as it gets, man, from Kyle Bradish. You're just sitting there like, dude, any pitcher in baseball would kill to make that pitch in that spot. Like,
Against the Rays.
Yes, correct. Like, that was as ridiculous a pitch as I've seen non-Felix Bautista this season, right? Bautista's on his own planet with some of the things that he's doing. But non-Felix Bautista, I don't know that an Orioles pitcher has made a pitch as ridiculous. Was it a 1-2 count? Like, did he have
on the Rosarena one?
It was the first out. Whoever it was, that's the problem.
Back in the third inning.
Yeah, when they put the runners on first and second. God, now hang on a second.
I can pull up the game summary.
Let's go to the let's go to the internet, right? The internet will tell us. Runners on first and second, nobody out, and it looked like an opportunity for the Rays to get back in the game, which obviously they ultimately did anyway. But this clearly would have given them much more time at that point. It was a
full count to Mejia.
Full count. Now I get it. Mejia's not, Mejia's at the bottom of the order. But also keep in mind that if he walks him, now all of a sudden you're turning the lineup over.
Yeah. Struck out Diaz on a 1-2 slider. Next batter.
Struck out. He put 2 runners on, and then struck out the side. And it all started. It was a 3-2 count. All started with that backdoor slider that literally hit the perfect corner, came right back in, was 3 inches off the plate, and came right back in at the very last second. And, you remember Mejia's reaction is just like, he didn't even start walking towards first base. He could have stood there for a second kind of hoping that the umpire would miss the call. And then as soon as it was called a strike, he was just like, I know.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do
He's the
here?
catcher. He knows the zone.
Right. I was just kind of hoping that you would goof and you would call it a ball. But I know what happened. It's just insane. What was I supposed to do there? It was as bonkers. I don't think we're talking enough about it. The fact that I got 20 minutes in and I hadn't brought it up, it was as bonkers a pitch as I've seen an Oriole make non-Felix Bautista all season, given the circumstances, given 2 runners on base, that if the ball doesn't come back over, you're now loading up the bases
with nobody out
for Yandy Diaz, Wander Franco, the top of the Rays order, right? Insane. Pure bat-s insanity that you were able to deliver that pitch in that spot, and it worked out the way that it did, and then he backed it up by striking out Diaz and Franco and getting out of the inning and keeping it alive. I understand the debate. You said it was 92 pitches?
Yeah.
Again, part of it might be the internal math of we're only playing 2 games in 4 days. We don't need more out of Kyle Bradish. Clearly, you're not expecting to turn to the bullpen at that point and then give up 4 runs.
Yeah.
He had looked a little human. I can understand the decision-making. I think it's an in hindsight conversation that we're having. I don't think in the moment it felt crazy. Now, if you want to have a bigger picture conversation about the Orioles' innings troubles on the whole, and the fact that they're just not getting enough innings out of their starting pitchers, and they need to look for more places where they can get another inning out of their starting pitchers to limit what it is they're asking of their bullpen, I think that's a different, separate conversation that we can have. I still don't know in that moment if it was necessary, because, again, this week – and also,
it's
you're
a weird week, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're
a
also
big week. Yeah,
it is a big week. You got to win these games, and if you think that Kyle Bradish is showing signs of
they're getting to him,
right, then I can understand why you make the decision. And again, in hindsight, we say right, but you ended up letting them back into the game by making the decision. Sure, but I just don't know if it's fair to say that in the moment it was definitively the wrong thing to do. I think I understood what the thought process was in the moment that Brandon Hyde made that decision. Clearly, again, today we're saying, might have been better to stick it out with Bradish for another inning, but they won the game, so who the hell cares? That's the important part. We got to keep coming back to that. They won the game against the Rays on the road. That is a damn good win, no matter how you went about getting it. Good? Good.
So.
Anything else we need to cover?
Accept that win?
It's not just that we accept it. We should be celebrating. Again, as awkward as the feeling was, it should be a win you celebrate. It should be a win that you feel good about, because any win on the road against a good team is that type of win. I don't care how you go about getting it. They had to score the 8 runs in order to do it. They had to, and look, the game changed on the Hicks home run. The game changed in the first inning. If they score 2 runs in the first inning, it's just a baseball game at that point. But they go up 6-0, and Santander obviously adds the home run in the second inning. They go up 6-0. The Rays did all of that work and still couldn't tie the game up. And that is a hell of a feeling, I think, for anybody that's played competitively. You're doing all of this work, and you still can't get over the hump. It's something that coaches talk about all the time, that even when things are going poor, if you can just protect the lead. You'll hear this all the time in, like, post-game press conferences. I was talking to Loyola played Maryland earlier this year in lacrosse, right? And you're trying to Loyola, it's crazy. They jump out to this lead, and Maryland comes charging back, and both coaches bring it up after the game. Maryland got back within a goal, but couldn't tie it up. And that feeling of just not being able to, like, if you tie it up, all of a sudden,
it's a new game.
New game,
Yeah.
ollie ollie oxen free. And it's not a perfect science, right? There are
Right.
plenty examples of, teams that blew a big lead, fell behind, and ended up figuring out a way to win anyway. But I don't have a math here. In just talking to athletes and coaches, the sheer feeling of getting out of the inning, getting that pop-up, that one looked like it was going to drop too. Jesus Christ. You're like, come on, really?
They
was
keep
it
finding that hole
was
in the
it
left
Frazier
field.
that was able to get out there and
Yes,
catch that
yeah.
one? Like, stop. There's no way. Just getting that out and getting out of the inning, I think, did something for both teams. And you, again, because you scored those, it matters that you scored 7 runs early. You don't apologize for the fact that you scored 7 runs and then you had to hang on. They all count the same way. If you come back and win 8-6, I know in our minds it feels comeback wins always feel like they count more. Our emotions the day after a comeback win, it's a dumb thing.
It's like this Orioles team, man.
Oh my God, we're ready to throw a parade. The Orioles had fallen behind 5-0 last night and come back and won 8-6. Today it would be the greatest win of the year. It would be, look at these Orioles. It would be all of those things. And I understand it because it feels like you're making a statement. But you're making a statement, too, when things aren't going your way and you're able to stabilize, when you're able to right the ship. That also matters. And while, yes, again, we would have rather them not had to use Yanier Cano or Felix Bautista in a game where they were up 7-0, it feels like you shouldn't have to go to that part of your bullpen in order to protect that win. They all count the same. And if you had come back from down 5-0 to win 8-6, you would have had to use those guys in that game too. An 8-6 win over the best team in baseball is a good win, and we should celebrate it. We should be happy, not, apologizing, not feeling like, oh, boy, well, they tried to screw it up. That's a damn good win. A damn good one. And in its own way has value in being the team. Not every game is made the same. Are you playing games in September? You're going to have to win some games where things go your way to start the game and then don't go your way in the middle of the innings, and you have to figure out a way to win it in the end. Every win has value. And I might feel differently if they were playing a bad team and they let the Washington Nationals back into a game where they were leading 7-0. I might feel differently today and say, that's not quite as good to me. Like, I wouldn't feel, but I feel good about this team figuring out a way to win a game in which everything was working against them. All of the momentum, as Jeff Arnold and Jim Palmer brought up, a few more people in Tampa last night than we're typically used to seeing at Rays games. Like, there was a real crowd. I don't know what they had listed as the attendance, and so you're probably going to say, like, you're going to say it was 14,000, and I'm going to say, well, it was about 8,000
It
more.
was 20. It was basically 21.
Dude, how many times do we ever remember there being 20,000 people at a Rays game?
October.
In your life?
Yeah.
like if we counted up all the games that we've ever seen the Orioles play at the Rays, maybe it would get to 20,000. There was an atmosphere last night. And
that inning was terrifying.
Dude, you were feeling like, oh, it's all gone south. It is all gone to hell. They're going to lose this game. That's the way it's going to be. And so to, again, right the ship in a real, I get it's not 40,000 people. I understand it's not.
To just hold on.
To figure out a way to get through it. To just hang on, and then to go get an insurance. I thought the going and getting an insurance run was a big deal, too. For the offense to say, because it's easy, I think, again, if you've been involved in competitive sports, it's easy to do some finger pointing. Oh, we went out and scored all these runs, and yet
Santander.
You guys
couldn't
can't.
catch a. Yeah.
Well, more it's you're blaming the pitchers, right? Like you
Right,
you guys can't. Dude, we gave you 7 runs. You can't hold on to it for us. For them, it's more like you're saying, okay, we got to understand that's a good team on the other side. We got more work to do. We can't just sit back and say we gave you 7. We got more work to do. And to go out and get another big run in order to get a win, I thought really was a tremendous statement. I feel a little bit differently about that than it felt like a lot of, Orioles Twitter, a lot of Orioles fans felt after last night's game. I thought that was a really, really good win, given that everything was working against them for a bit, and yet they figured out a way to win the game anyway.
Yeah, it was almost like Brian Anderson kind of jinxed the Orioles when he came on with us because he was talking about the Orioles being the team that takes advantage of don't make mistakes and takes advantage when the other team does.
Yeah, they
made
made
the Rays kind of
made a few mistakes. Hey, Stan the Fan, Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson got together yesterday. If you missed it, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. And then tomorrow night, Stan the Fan, Charles, Gary Stein, and General Manager of CFG Bank Arena, Frank Remish, will get together, talk a little bit more about how sports could be involved in the future of the newly renovated building. That's tomorrow night, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. I'm going to try. I apologize. I've had it sitting here ready to fire. I just haven't fired out the Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios yet, so we'll get them up, and Griffin and I will dive into them. We come back in. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Your summer destination is closer than you think at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. With an expansive gaming floor and incredible dining options ready for you to explore, your adventure awaits. Dine at the new Coho Korean Barbecue House coming in July or on the patio at the Prime Rib. Enjoy the summertime breeze at Orchid Smoking Patio. Limited time packages starting at $229. What are you waiting for? Book now. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Orioles are off and running, out to prove that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are one of the best teams in baseball. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, host of the Bat Around for PressBox. Tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon as Zach Goodman and I break down every Adley bomb, every Tony Tater, and every save from the mountain. Like a warm hug from Rutschman, the Bat Around has you covered with all things Orioles as we embark on what's sure to be a magical summer in Birdland. So tune in every Saturday for the best in Orioles coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
It's always a reasonable conversation. I don't understand what's wrong with people that want more of me either. Hi, Glenn Clark Radio, Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. I have to be honest, you know what I struggled with Would You Rather Wednesday this week? I like to try to include non-sports, things and Would You Rather Wednesday. The like biggest non-sports topic of the week, of course, is the terrible situation that's unfolding, with them searching for this submersible and getting down to the nitty-gritty as far as and it's become easy for the internet to dunk on a lot of this because apparently this company it was a fire festival. Like I don't know if you've seen any of this, but like the inside of the submersible,
It's like tiny, right?
it's
like,
number one, it's tiny. Two, like they never got they have no regulation. They did not get regulated by anyone, this company. Three, the entire thing is controlled by like a video game controller. It's not a bit. Like they literally don't have like a steering wheel or something like that. They have a video game controller.
Is somebody else controlling or inside?
No, inside the
they
thing,
control
they have a
themselves.
Logitech video game controller. It is. There's like no safety. That the owner of the company, who is among the missing, like was bragging in interviews about how he could get around safety regulations, and I mean it's made it very easy. Apparently, they were sued a couple of years ago.
Jeez.
There was somebody that was supposed to be on this trip that literally looked at all the safety stuff and said, "I'm not getting on that thing." Which probably feels like the luckiest person on the face of the planet at the moment,
And the smartest, maybe.
And so it's been easy for the internet, and also the fact that they're going to like search for Titanic wreckage. You know, like it's been easy for the internet to dunk on everyone. So I was like, we could include something related, but then there are people that are likely gonna die, you know, or either already are dead or likely gonna die. And like I get why we think this is a Darwin Award type of situation, but I'm never gonna be comfortable dunking on someone's death. Like it's just too far for me. You know, the situation is clearly awful. I mean, it's just awful. But that made it difficult because it's like all the internet is talking about this week is this Titanic thing, and I couldn't find any other good like secondary stories that we could have fun with. So I might have to put Griffin in charge of that moving forward. You got to find other things that we can dunk on.
All right.
Would you rather
I
win?
love dunking, so.
Yeah, right. You're big. I see that all the time where you're just around the office trying to dunk on anybody that walks in. Would You Rather Wednesday is brought to you by Birdland Sports. They finally did it. We knew they would. They finally did it. The Aaron Hicks T-shirt is available. It's a big Hicks energy.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. It's a good one. And it's available right now at birdlandsports.com. Remember, the day that they picked up Aaron Hicks, one of the first tweet that I saw was from our buddy Josh at Birdland Sports, who said, "We're not doing an Aaron Hicks shirt." And I always thought they might. Always thought it was possible, and it is finally available. Big Hicks energy. Oh, man. Go pick it up. Go pick it up right now, birdlandsports.com. Or you could win it from your pals here at Glenn Clark Radio just by participating in Would You Rather Wednesday. All you got to do is wander over at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, respond to one of our 3 Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios, or all 3 of them. It doesn't improve your odds. You only have to respond to one in order to register. Or go over to facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio and respond to Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios. Your name will be thrown into the hopper. Griffin has it in the other room. It's a cartoonishly large hopper. I don't know why we got a hopper that big. It's basically the size of our bathroom, and we never really are able to fill it.
It's just what we do here.
One of my goals is that
we go above and beyond.
That one day we'll have so many people participate in Would You Rather Wednesday that we fill the cartoonishly large hopper that you see.
Right, and then
here.
we can start like live streaming when we pick the names.
That'd be amazing. We do it like the
so
lottery.
many.
Yes, I'm all in on that. But so far we haven't quite been able to fill it. You just get in, just respond to any one scenario or all the scenarios, and you're in. I used to also say, or you could present your own Would You Rather Wednesday scenario, but no one ever seems to want to do that for some reason. I don't know why it is. I like having the debate. I like it when somebody says, "Glenn, would you rather?" Nobody ever asks me how I feel. It's always how are you doing, not how am I doing. I'd like to be able to participate too. So that's how you can get in, and you can be registered to win a shirt of your choice from Birdland Sports, including the Big Hicks Energy shirt. The 3 scenarios this week. Number 1, would you rather, as we mentioned, appears to be imminent, the Ryan Mountcastle return. Would you rather Ryan Mountcastle returns and you give him another shot to be the everyday first baseman and figure it out, or at this point, he's returning to be nothing more than a platoon hitter against lefties?
I think the latter. I think he needs to be. I don't think he's an everyday starter anymore. I think he can definitely be a very useful. I mean, we saw they pinch hit last night with Ryan McKenna for Ryan O'Hearn, which, I mean,
there was a lot of questions about that.
Yes. I mean, obviously, I don't have a problem with, I guess, pinch hitting in that spot, a lefty against a lefty. But, the fact that it's Ryan McKenna makes it really tough. And it's not really Brandon Hyde's fault either. That's the guy that's on the roster, and he hasn't been able to use for a week.
And Brandon Hyde has said, we've kind of gotten to know that with Brandon Hyde. If he's on the team, they're going to play. We're not hiding people here. They're on the team, we have to play it. We only have a certain number of roster spots. We got to use whoever's here.
So I'm going with that's the so the exact question your returns is the everyday. Yeah, I don't want to see Mountcastle as the everyday guy. I think O'Hearn has done enough and should continue to be the guy that you definitely play against right-handed pitchers. And I don't even know if you need to start I guess you will start Mountcastle against left-handed starters. But I think that makes him more of an asset to come off the bench. If you need if they got a lefty in the 8th or 9th inning, you got Mountcastle right there. And
this is a difficult conversation because it goes back to how much do you truly believe in what Ryan O'Hearn is doing? Do you think that Ryan Mountcastle could build up an amount of value over the course of the next month if he were to be hot that you could throw him in on a trade? Like a team could also say, yeah, by the way, we'd be willing to see if we can't, squeeze something out of that. I don't think so, but it's non-zero to me. I agree with you that I think he can have value as a bat against left-handed pitching, as a bat off the bench. It's a difficult pill to swallow to think you've reached a point where that's all he can be.
Right.
And it's a tough feeling. I think part of what complicates this is the unspoken, which is, well, is somebody else coming? Because there's a part of me that says if you're not bringing up Westberg or Cowser, I don't know, maybe you run Mountcastle out there at least every day for a little while to figure out. To
at least not in the immediate. I think Ryan O'Hearn is red hot.
I understand that, but I
don't think we can pull him from the lineup and start playing him 2 days a week with him the way he's hitting. I mean, he's still OPSing over 1,000, and he's been up since April. I think.
I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with believing this is real with Ryan O'Hearn. This absolutely to me feels like we're going to be talking about Ryan O'Hearn in 3 weeks the way that we talk about Ryan Mountcastle.
Well, I mean, I think that's just kind of just.
I understand your argument. Boy, who's really desperate to get in touch with you? Somebody really wants to talk to you today. You got to tell them that they got to take. If it's somebody that we don't need, tell them to take the number off the. I don't know who that is. What does it say? I can't.
It says a nightclub.
Oh, well, maybe they want to invite us out. I'm perhaps intrigued. Do they want to do an appearance? As everyone knows, I'm a big nightclub guy. And I might. Who is it? It's a different conversation. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Maybe somebody. Maybe it's not a nightclub. This is a weird conversation. Anyway, sorry. I get the argument, and I think it's probably the correct answer at this point to say Ryan Mountcastle returns, and for now is in the lineup against lefties. It's probably the right decision. And then you adjust from there. You adjust as necessary. If Ryan O'Hearn goes silent, then you have the opportunity to say, okay, that's more at-bats for Ryan Mountcastle. I'm struggling on the whole. Admittedly, I'm struggling on the whole with ultimately whether or not it's the right thing for Ryan Mountcastle to play every day. And I mean that in the complicated conversation of, is it the right thing for the Orioles long term? Is it the right thing for right now? There's so much there that it's difficult for me to say with confidence this is all he can ever be right now, but I am getting closer to that point. And the early responses, and we haven't gotten a ton of them so far, but the early responses are kind of lining up with that. The idea that it looks like that's the reality. So that's where I am. And again, so far, the first couple of you anyway that have gotten in have kind of agreed with that. Would You Rather Wednesday continues here on GCR. Would you rather number 2? Would you rather make a $1,000 bet? You got to go one way or the other with a $1,000 bet. A $1,000 bet on the Ravens to win. I just happen to notice these odds are up. Exact win total odds are up on FanDuel, and I was playing with them this morning. Exactly 13 games pays at plus 850, or exactly 10 games at plus 550. Exactly 13 at plus 850, or exactly 10 at plus 550.
So I have to make the bet.
You have to make the bet, and you have to bet on one of these two things.
Then I'm betting the 13 games.
Just for the fun of it?
For the fun of it, make more money.
Okay, but there's the flip side argument is you would like to win the money if possible.
I'd like to win the money, but I think they win more than 10 games. I think they're more than capable of it, as long as, everyone stays healthy.
That's a huge
like
if,
bro. This team on paper looks like they should be, one of the top 2-3 teams in the AFC. And I think that projects them higher than a 10-win team. So go for 13. Better odds. Going to make more money.
If you want to make the argument,
have more fun.
I think that, to me, if the number was 11, and by the way, the odds for winning 11 games are exactly the same as they are for winning 10. That's why I didn't include it. Because I think if I had put 11 on there, then that's the one.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm betting that. What are we talking about? That's perfect. I hear what you're saying. I also see, like, a trip to Jacksonville, a trip to San Francisco, even the trip to the Chargers that I don't think is going to be easy. And then the likelihood that you are probably going to lose a few division games just because the division is difficult. And even if you stay healthy, I don't know how confident I am that you can figure out a way to 13 wins. 10 is a small number, right? Like, the 10, you're almost getting to the point where something had to go wrong for you to have lost another, pick one of these games in there, like at Tennessee. Oh, no, that's the London game. Sorry, right. Like, well, I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
Like, the London's a complete crapshoot. But, the Lions at home, for example. Like, on paper, you'd say you should beat the Lions at home. But what if the Lions really are the team everybody thinks they're going to be?
We still got Justin Tucker. They're kryptonite. So.
Right, in Detroit. This one's in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Justin Tucker, both of his big kicks are in Detroit. This one's a tricky one for me because I don't think they're winning 13 games this year. I don't see it. I don't see it.
I think there's an upside where
they
do.
I don't think. Now, again, I don't think I don't think they're winning 10 either, but I've got to bet one way or the other. I think one's a next to zero proposition, and the other one is at least plausible to me that, like, just because one or two things goes wrong, you end up sitting at 10-7. I almost find myself having to make the 10-7 bet. Not that I think that's what they're going to do. Like, I bet 11-6 right now. But of the two, I feel like I'd have to make the 10-7 bet. Number 3 for Would You Rather Wednesday. Would you rather you spent the first 40 years of your life as a hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool. Sorry, I presented this the wrong way. Let me go the other way around. Would you rather you spent the first 40 years of your life with a mole, an annoying mole on your face that doctors say they can't get rid of? I don't know why, but it would do something terrible to you. So you're just stuck with this annoying mole on your face. Or first 40 years of your life as a hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool Washington Wizards fan.
So we're talking about, like, the last 40 years going back?
Yes. Imagine you're 40 years old today, and you spent the last 40 years being a fan of the Washington, and not like what you say you are, which is like, yeah, I'm a Wizards fan.
I watched them in November, yeah.
I don't even know why you do that, but whatever. This is like, you care.
Because Bradley Beal usually plays.
This is imagine how you feel about the Orioles, but it's the Wizards.
I mean, I guess I go with the Wizards. I mean, because that's basically kind of what I am now, which is just almost like a non-NBA fan. And I think that's almost like what that is. That, like, I don't know how that would affect my relationship with the NBA. Like, would I care? I guess like I don't think I'd care much more than I do now about the NBA because I'd almost just be a non-fan at that point. Just because the Wizards have been so irrelevant. I mean, you had the Michael Jordan the Michael Jordan era, so maybe that's exciting for you, right? As a Wizards fan, for the last 4
Was
years.
it?
I don't know.
Why was it?
Because you had Michael Jordan.
He was kind of average. It was nothing. They were an 8 seed in the playoffs. Like, it was the same as it ever was.
I guess
the most exciting thyou ever had was Paul Pierce banking in his shot once in the playoffs.
There you go. See,
that's the most exciting feeling.
And
that's the most alive you ever felt in your entire 40 years.
And I think that point right there, that's those 2014 playoffs, is enough to make make that better than having a mole on your face.
Is it?
Yeah.
All of the times you've been utterly miserable, you think is outweighed by one playoff series win?
Yeah, because you got.
What is wrong with you?
You have a mole on your face?
It stinks. I agree with that, but at least you don't have to go
forever?
with the
your
misery
life?
for 40 years. After 40 years, I don't know what happens.
Just vanishes.
40 years, they might be able to get rid of that mole.
So, and again, that's just a might.
I don't know. I'm not giving you that. I'm only giving you is 40 years. You know nothing
it's
after
the same
40.
thought with the Wizards.
Your boy,
they might be good
your
this
boy
year.
Sean's trying to be like, well, what happens after that? No. You don't get to know that. You only get to know the scenario that you have in front of you.
Yes. So what after the 40 years, the Wizards are good? No.
I'm not giving you anything. Stop trying to project. You get nothing. All you know.
I'm gonna be a Wizards fan because I don't want to have a mole on my face.
I don't want to be a Wizards fan.
All right. Well,
it's hell.
If
Imagine caring that. Like, this is the easy part. Like, I joke about this. There are no Wizards fans, so no one has to be bothered by any of this. They don't exist. They're not real.
Exactly. It's a
They're
faulty,
imaginary.
it's a flawed question.
They're imaginary people. No one has to worry about what the hell must be like of being a Wizards fan for 40 years because there are no such things as 40-year Wizards fans.
Does that mean I lived in D.C.
I think
too?
at some point you just have a mole. You're like, yeah, I got a mole. What of it? That's the way it goes.
Like, what's the size of this mole? Is
It's
it like
most moles you're talking about. What you're thinking of is
I'm
like
thinking
a
hideous.
tumor. You're thinking of a tumor.
Yeah, really.
I'm talking about a mole. Like, it's annoying.
Oh, okay.
It's you hate
Does it like protrude? Or
I had
like,
when I was a kid. I had I don't know if it was a mole or if there was another name for it. Right next to my nose, I had one right there.
Oh, like right in like the little crease.
And I hated it so much. And I remember like my aunt had one, and so like my family would always try to like make me feel better about my mole because they'd be like, "Look, your aunt has a mole too," and I'd be like, "I'm sure that makes me feel better about this. I'm sure." I'm like,
and I guess I'm misinterpreting the question, kind of. You know.
Yes, you're talking about a tumor. I'm
I
not giving
want
you
that.
I'm not giving you a tumor. I'm talking about a mole.
That's why I was having trouble because you're like, I'm going to put a tumor in your body.
Everybody's gonna notice it. Like that's the reality of it. What was the Austin Powers movie where there was like mole? Like it's
you can still kind of hide being a Wizards fan.
You could from other people, but you would have to deal with the shame that you feel on a day-to-day basis of caring so deeply about such an awful, money laundering scam of a basketball franchise.
I'll be a Wizards fan.
You're so sad.
I don't want a mole on my face. Even though I probably have one. I mean,
I don't know if you got a mole. I don't see a mole. Some moles,
got, like,
sometimes people like find moles
and stuff.
endearing. I'm talking
Yeah.
about a mole that would be like annoying and enlarged and like it wouldn't be. There'd be nothing cute about it.
Does it make it hard to shave too? And like,
Oh yeah, definitely
God.
becomes an issue when you're shaving.
Wizards fan. It's hard to shave as a Wizards fan.
I mean, Mike, it's hard to breathe as a Wizards fan. Again, you would have to care. You have to constantly be kicked in the nads over and over and over and over and over again.
And that's going to make it so much sweeter in year 41.
It's not going to be a year 41. Stop convincing yourself.
You said we don't know what happens.
We don't, except we've been a Wizards fan for 40 years, so we do know what happens. My God.
Never know. Maybe they they make a trade this
No,
year.
they don't. No, they don't.
Next year they make the trade.
They're probably going to just end up outright releasing Chris Paul. Like, they're talking about trading.
I think you're
for him.
right. I think
They're
you're
just
right.
going to end
That's
up releasing him. They're going to get nothing.
They're going to
nothing
win.
from nothing means nothing.
They're probably going to win somewhere between 15 and 20 games.
Oh, they're going to win just enough games to not
I
get the
swear to
number
God,
one
if
pick.
they do that again.
Or that it's going to be Kwame Brown. Like, they're going to get the number one pick, and it's going to
be Greg Oden.
I saw somewhere on – it's so funny that the handful of you that actually pretend to care about the Wizards, and you don't actually even care about the Wizards. You just want to feel like you're part of it during basketball season. You don't have anybody else to
I don't know why
embrace.
is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah, and find a team. Like
what team?
Anyone.
There's no one around.
They're not around either.
They're the closest one.
How far away are you?
Like an hour.
You're not. I've been through this math before. You're not that closer to the Wizards than you are to the 76ers.
Well, I'm not going to be a Sixers fan.
Because
it's Philly.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because I don't want to be a Philly sports fan.
You don't
of
have to be a
anything.
Philly sports fan.
You just said I could be a Sixers fan. I
That's
don't
not
wanna
a
be
Philly sports fan. That's being a 76ers fan.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
I'd root for
I
the
don't be
Suns. That doesn't mean I
associated.
root for the Cardinals. For
Yeah, I get
God's
that.
sakes. I would never do
But
that.
you still had a connection
I
out
respect
there.
myself. To who? I had a connection. Well, yes,
The
I had a
Suns.
connection to the Suns.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. That's why I chose them. I don't know why anybody around here would be a fan of any basketball team versus just being a fan. What I did, just pick a player and root for that player.
Capital City Go-Go.
That's the same thing. How would that be any different? You could be a fan of the Wilmington, whatever they're called, the Delaware 48ers.
Why
or
am I a
whatever.
Terps fan? I guess
Because it's the Maryland. I don't know if it says Maryland. They have the Maryland flag. That's the state you live in. You pay your taxes there. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
What association do you have with Washington?
Close by.
No.
What? How is it not close by?
It's close-ish by. Like, it's closer than New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's closer than New York.
So should I just throw all 30 NBA teams in a hat and then
I swear to God, it's about the same as being a
what if I
Wizards
pick the
fan.
Wizards?
I mean, then you have terrible luck. God, you are the unluckiest sack of S that has ever lived. Imagine.
So you're going with the mole?
Yeah, and being why would I wish that upon myself? Why would I wish upon myself
So you can
being a
you can
hardcore
enjoy the good
fan?
moments.
What good moments?
The Paul Pierce
that
called
even
back.
that good moment you knew was a fluke.
He called back.
God, you had
Called
no
back.
reason to believe. Like when the Orioles did that in 2014, you had reason to believe they could win the World Series. There was reason to think that they could build to a championship. At no point in your life as a Wizards fan have you thought to yourself, you know, they've got the trappings of a team that could win a championship. Never. It's never happened. In my life as an Orioles fan, well, technically they won a World Series when I was 1 month old. But
Congratulations.
yeah, correct. I was a big part of it. But
Seen 3 championships in your life?
96, 97, we absolutely believe those teams are capable of winning World Series. In that teens run, you believe that the Orioles are capable of winning a World Series. Right now, you can see the path of the Orioles winning a World Series. In no point in your life, if you had cared about the Wizards, did you ever think there was something brewing that could move towards a championship? Ever. Ever.
Maybe Michael Jordan had something left.
No! Never did you think that. At Glenn Clark Radio. Get your
When they drafted
responses
Rui
in.
Hachimura.
Yes, that was going to be the moment.
Yeah.
Everything was going to change. Get your responses in at Glenn Clark Radio or Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. Someone will win a shirt of their choice from Birdland Sports just for participating in Would You Rather Wednesday. Speaking of those 83 Orioles, we will continue our celebration of the 40th anniversary of the 83 World Series team. One of the most important parts of that team, Mike Boddicker, is going to join us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave Ginsburg remembers Goose as he looks back on the impact that late Tony Saragusa had both on and off the field here in Baltimore. Plus, he explains how Goose's kids are working to continue that legacy with the Goose Flights program. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles the path Tyler Wells has taken to becoming a star in the Orioles rotation. And you'll find a special summer travel guide with information about events and activities throughout the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Your summer destination is closer than you think at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. With an expansive gaming floor and incredible dining options ready for you to explore, your adventure awaits. Dine at the new Coho Korean Barbecue House coming in July or on the patio at the Prime Rib. Enjoy the summertime breeze at Orchid Smoking Patio. Limited time packages starting at $229. What are you waiting for? Book now. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR into hour number 2 of today's program. Today's show also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available right now. Go get it at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of those hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. Of course, a really nice issue celebrating the legacy of Tony Saragusa. It's available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. It is, we started this kind of organically a couple weeks ago, and we're going to be celebrating throughout the season the 40th anniversary of the 1983 World Series champion Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles, of course, hosting an event in August where everybody's going to be coming back, and we're looking forward to that. But we wanted to catch up with some of those guys and reflect 40 years later. And our next guest is one of the most important reasons why the Orioles won their most recent World Series title. He was a young pitcher, and he had an unbelievable 1983 season, which led into the playoffs where he was utterly dominant. It is a pleasure to welcome back into the program Mike Boddicker, who is with us now here on GCR. Mike, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to catch up. Thank you so much for taking the time for us this morning.
Not a problem. My pleasure, Glenn.
Mike, can you just kind of take me back to before the 83 season? Did you have a feeling in your development that you were ready, that when you got the opportunity, that you were going to be ready to step up and make big time? I don't know if we could talk about World Series yet, but that you were ready to have a strong season in the starting rotation?
Yeah, I'd one more year in Rochester, and I was going to run for mayor there. So, yeah, I'd spent enough time in the minor leagues and had some pretty good seasons. So, yeah, the only problem was I'm as you're looking up at the Orioles pitching staff, you got how many Cy Young Award winners and 20-game winners, and you're going, there really isn't a whole lot of room for me up there. And that was the issue. It wasn't that I didn't feel like I was ready or put my time in and stuff like that. It's just, when you got Palmer and McGregor and Flanagan and Stone and all those guys that were there before, it's like, oof, that's even the bullpen. I mean, Sammy Stewart was fabulous, and Dave Ford and Tim Stoddard, that group, and Tippy. Now they got 15 guys in the bullpen. We had like 4, and they were all dominant, But, baseball's changed. We used to go, if you didn't go 7 innings, it was kind of an embarrassment,
No question. So Mike,
it's different game.
I talk to guys all the time who show up somewhere, and they're like, dude, I had no idea when I got there that I had a chance to win a championship. I would assume that coming up in the Baltimore system at that time, they were just coming off a World Series appearance in '79, that you might have even expected that being a part of this franchise, there was going to be an opportunity to do it, maybe even an obligation to try to keep up to the championship standard that the Orioles had set.
Well, the issue was, I was called up in '82, and we played Milwaukee down to the last game of the season to make the playoffs. And I mean, we won a lot of games, and you expected to win with our staff and what we put out there with Murray and Ripken and Singleton and Lowenstein and Renicky and that group. Yeah, it was. You knew you were going to win games. And I was just lucky enough to be on that staff in '83. And it wasn't. I didn't start the year there. I mean, basically Hank Peters told me don't give away your apartment in Rochester because as soon as Palmer's better, you're going back down. And my dad told me when I was younger. He says, you know what? All you can ask for is the truth. You might not like it, but there's nothing better than the truth. And Hank Peters was always truthful with me. I loved Hank. And that's all you can ask for.
Mike, did hearing that maybe light a little bit of a fire under you to perform the way that you did, like at that point?
No, not really. I understood. I mean, I understood where I was at, what organization I was with, what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be there to help, and hopefully in the next year or so, have the opportunity to crack the staff. I wasn't expecting to that year. It was just a matter of Palmer was hurt, and then Flanagan was hurt, and then Tippy had an appendectomy, and the next thing you know, I'd won 16 games, and I wasn't going anywhere. So it was just one of those things that happen. You get the opportunity, you got to perform. So, and the guys played well when I pitched and scored the runs, and next thing you know, I had some wins under my belt.
He is Mike Boddicker. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Mike, one of the things that I'm constantly reminded about the '83 team was 2 separate 7-game losing streaks. And, this day in baseball, in the era of social media, a city would burn. Like when teams go through, it's how did you guys manage to keep things together when you dealt with adversity? Because I think a lot of people talk about, hey, it's a long baseball season, these things happen. But that's a pretty extreme thing to have happen for a World Series championship team.
Here's what you got to get yourself in a position to be there at the end, and whoever's hottest at the end probably going to win the World Series, and that's where we were at. It is a long season, and there's some peaks and valleys in there. Our guys never got down, even after we lost the first game of the playoffs. Come into the clubhouse, everybody's fine. Hey, we're all right. No big deal. Laughing, talking. Same thing with the game 1 of the World Series. Scotty pitched great on both those games, McGregor.
Yep.
I mean, he lost 2-1, I think, in both of them, the playoffs and the series. And basically, all I wanted to do was pitch as well as Scotty did, and I did my job. That's all you can do is do your job. And McGregor was fabulous. I was so happy to see him win the final game of the series and get the accolades he deserved.
Can we go back to that, though, Mike? You get out there for Game 2 of the World Series after you guys have lost Game 1. And the idea of dropping 2 games at home to start a World Series, if that had happened, everybody would have just said, don't even bother. The series isn't coming back to Baltimore. Like, you can't climb out of an 0-2 hole when you've lost both games at home. What were you feeling as you took the mound in Game 2, knowing that was what was at stake?
That was the least of my worries. It was the media that I wasn't ready for. The influx of the amount of media and the coverage. And once I crossed the white line to get to the mound, it was like, relief. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I do. I don't have to worry about the other stuff. And I knew what I could do. I knew my capabilities. And like I said, all I wanted to do is pitch as well as Scotty. If I could hold a team to 2 runs through the course of a game, I've done a pretty good job.
Yep.
And that's all you can do. I mean, the starter tries to keep a team in your club in the game as long as you possibly can, as close as you possibly can, and then you've done your job as a starter. And that's all I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to nothing spectacular, just pitch.
Clearly, the moment wasn't too big for you. That was abundantly clear as you handled it.
I was so happy to crawl up on that hill just to get away from all the other stuff that was going on. It was like,
what was the feeling like in those playoffs? Like you're so young at that point. I know, as you point out, you had been in the minors for a few years, but you're still very young to be in front of those crowds and that atmosphere. And like, can you put into words as someone who hadn't had as much experience what those feelings were like to pitch in front of, rabid atmospheres in those postseason?
Yeah, the only thing I can remember is Wild Bill Hagee doing and stuff up there. I really didn't hear the crowd. I really didn't see the crowd.
Wow.
I had a job to do, and I got Rip at short. I got Eddie Murray at first. That I never had to worry about getting calmed down. I had guys to help me on the field. Then I had Palmer and McGregor and Flannery. I had the guys off the field. My compadres that they were constantly talking baseball and explaining stuff to me. I was, how blessed I was to have those guys.
Right.
It was that made my career, is what it did. To be able to be in that situation.
What's the best thing? You mentioned all the guys, but obviously we're talking about Jim Palmer here. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the sport, and a man who remains beloved, and by the way, is also over the last 30 years maybe the greatest color analyst in the history of baseball. He's so.
Oh yeah, I text him during the games all the time.
It's insane. I say this. I've been blessed to spend my life having Jim Palmer explain baseball to me. Right, like it's unbelievable. And yet there are still times where I'm learning things where he's so insanely good at this that somehow he gets better into his 70s, right? He's like replay. He's nailed it every time, very casually every time, explains exactly what happened. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. But what is the best thing that you learned from Palmer? What did he, as you would go on to be an all-star and to have your own outstanding career, what's the best thing that you learned from the time that you spent with Palmer?
He treated me like an equal from day one. Now I'm looking at a guy, multiple Cy Young Award winner, multiple 20-game winner, one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he treated me like, hey, you're part of this. It was great. The one thing I remember, besides him being so generous and nice to a young kid, was I remember a game in Detroit, and it might have been, I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 83. It might have been 80. I don't remember. But I might have had the best stuff I've ever had in my life. I had it in the bullpen. I took it out to the mound with me. I think I lasted 2 1/3 innings. And I was just dumbfounded. I came walking into the dugout after I got taken out, and Palmer came over and he sat down next to me, sat there for a second. And he goes, "You had great stuff today, didn't you?" I went, "Yes, I did." He goes, "Yeah, but you threw all the wrong pitches to all the right people." He says, "You weren't thinking, you were just throwing." And I went, "Oh my gosh." He nailed it. Hit the nail right on the head,
I mean, boy, it worked out, obviously. Advice, heeding that advice went a long way.
Quit worrying. Quit relying on your stuff and rely on your brain. Use your head when you pitch. There's times when you have to go get a strikeout, you go get it. There's times when you need a ground ball, you go try to get it. Use your head.
I was wondering if you could walk me through. You talked about how the '82 season ended. The change in '83 is Joe Altobelli's there, and clearly you knew Joe, right? Like he's not a figure that is a significant figure in Baltimore Orioles history because, of course, he was in the shadow of the legendary Earl Weaver.
Yep.
What did
Came
Joe?
in right after Earl.
What did Joe bring? How did he play a role in you guys winning that World Series in '83?
Alto, I've known Alto forever. The minor leagues and stuff like that. There was a group of guys, Joe Morgan from the Red Sox, and the guys in the minor leagues for a long time. So everybody basically had Joe somewhere along the line. So it was a comfortable transition with him. And he let the guys understand, this is what your job is. This is what I expect of you. And it got to the point where guys would jump up off the bench to pinch hit before he even yelled at them. They knew when their time was. It was amazing. Jimmy Dwyer and Benny Ayala and those guys, they knew when their time was up, when they were supposed to be called on. And Joe would look up, and they were already grabbing a bat, grabbing a helmet. It was a calming effect, and he let the guys do what they were really good at. So,
who's the guy that doesn't get enough credit? Who's the guy, Mike, that you look at and you say, I feel like this story was more significant to us winning the World Series than history has remembered it being?
Gary Reineke.
Yeah.
Gary Renicky helped us get through the playoffs. We'd have never been there without him. Matter of fact, I won the MVP of the playoffs. It should have been Renicky.
Wow.
It really should have been.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look, and somebody who's thought of as sort of like he was a platoon guy, right? But
platoon outfielder with Lowenstein, yes.
Yep. Correct.
But without Rhino doing what he did in the playoffs, there was no possible way that we go to the World Series.
Mike, what is it meant to you? You know, like at that point in your career, Rip has talked about this a lot, right? Like at that point in your career, I'm going to guess that you assumed that you were going to win 100 of these things, right? Like,
I thought I'd win at least one more.
Right? Like that's when you win one that early, like you're like, oh my God, this is all I'm going to ever do. How has time maybe changed the way that you reflect on that and how special it was and how important it was to you in your life?
It's fun to look back on, but that didn't define who I was or who I was as a pitcher. What I really, really appreciate now are the guys I played with, my teammates, Jimmy Tyler, Freddie Tyler, Richie Bancel, Ralph Salvon. I mean, those are the guys you don't ever hear about. Clubhouse guys, trainers and traveling secretary Phil Itzel. Those are the guys who, I miss. I still get together with Eddie Murray and I talk to different ones here and there, but it's not. You miss the guys. They were family.
That's
why August is going to be so much fun.
Right.
Get some guys there.
By the way, but some of those guys that you bring up, of course, were legendary figures. The Tylers, Richie Bancels, like these were in Baltimore baseball. These are, even if they didn't play a game, they're legendary figures in the history of Baltimore baseball.
Well, they meant so much to our team.
Yeah, they're
that's what you have to understand. They were there every day helping us out, whether it be medical or stuff we needed in the clubhouse or taking care of everything. Those guys were so important.
Mike,
to the process.
You mentioned a minute ago you're texting Jim. Like I know you're back in the Midwest. Are you trying to stay in touch and paying attention to what the Orioles are doing?
I watch them. I watch games on TV all the time. The O's. They're pretty damn good.
They're really
but they're
good.
Fun to watch. Yeah, it's fun to see them compete and what they do. I mean, it's fun to watch the O's, man.
Do you see a sense of something like the way that this team has come up and guys coming up together? And, do you see anything that kind of reminds you of that core group of guys that, you guys had put together?
No, they have the talent, no doubt about it. But what I see is they like each other.
Yeah.
They have fun with each other.
Yeah.
They enjoy playing the game with each other. That means an awful lot. It really does. So
it's so funny you bring that up because I feel like Brandon Hyde isn't getting a ton of credit, the manager right now, just because I don't know why. I don't know why it is that he's not getting a ton of credit.
That's because he looks old and grumpy with his half beard. Yeah,
But but
he lets him play, man.
Yeah, that's got to matter, right?
The good job.
It feels like he has to be at least part that culture that you just brought up with this current team, Mike. I think we all see it. The amount of fun they're having, the joy that like a Kyle Gibson who's been in baseball forever raves about the experience that he's having right now in Baltimore. I feel like whatever the X's and O's things, whatever you think about the lineups he's putting out there every day or, pinch hitting decisions, you got to give a manager a heck of a lot of credit for the culture that is very evident of winning and having fun and wanting to be here that exists in Baltimore at the moment.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, having fun. When did baseball quit being fun? It's supposed to be fun. We're playing a little kid's game, man. It's supposed to be fun. And fans can tell when you're having fun. That's the one thing that is slipping away from the game. You see these guys and they're it's almost like they're overthinking. They're over worrying about everything. Go out and play the game. You're good at it.
it's fun for us. It permeates. It translates, right? The way that, and you know what it's like when Baltimore is in love with a baseball team. Like you.
Oh man.
It is a special time. It's a special. Like I know that people associate Baltimore with football too, but at its core, Baltimore is very much a baseball town. And right now, we are feeling those romantic feelings, and you know what that's like in this city when there is a love affair between city and baseball team.
Yes. Yes. And it's been way too long since the O's have won a World Series. It's time to get after it. I kept telling the guys, that different pitchers, Messina and different ones. I said, you know what, guys? Somebody win 20 games because I'm the last guy, and you guys are a lot better than I was. I mean, come on. And now with the game the way it is, I don't know if it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there ever will be. I think you're right about that. I think you might end up literally keeping that eternally. That you might have been the final 20 game
I'm
winner. Sitting
there, and I watched Mike Messina pitch for years. I'm sitting there going, my God, this kid's good.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be. I thought that young man would win 20 games multiple times.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of dumb bad luck involved in Moose's career, right? Like the dumb bad luck of missing out on a World Series, of missing out, of taking forever to finally win 20 games, and get nights that he should have had no hitters or perfect games that it just ended in the 8th or the 9th inning. There was a lot of dumb bad luck.
If you watch that guy pitch, you're going, man, he fits right in with the Oriole greats.
No question.
Yep.
Mike Boddicker, what are you up to these days?
Right now I'm over at a friend's place. I opened up the house so they can get the exterminator in here, and then I'm heading over to visit some friends about 4 or 5 blocks away that I know, and then I'm back to hopefully watching grandkids. I like watching my grandkids.
It's not a bad way.
We do it a lot.
Not a bad way.
No,
to spend
we got a dozen of them, and they all live within 3 miles of me.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's so cool. And by the way, as someone who appreciates the fact that I've got 4 parents, mine and my wife's, that take care of our grandkids, I bet that is a blessing for your kids.
Oh, it is a blessing. Yes.
Yeah, I bet that's the case.
It's good. Everybody needs a little quality time free, and it's funny because we spent most of my career on the East Coast out there, and we really didn't have any family or any. We were kind of on our own, so yeah.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful that you get that time.
It's fun.
Mike Boddicker, we can't wait to see you back here in August. It's going to be a very special weekend celebrating you guys.
It should be fun. I hope the O's keep winning to make it even funner.
Oh, it could be an electric. It could be an awesome. We talk about those rabid crowds.
Yeah, I want to see it go down to the wire because I think the O's have the right attitude. I really do. I think that they could easily do it this year with what I've seen with their chemistry and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. That'd really be fun.
From your lips to God's ears, my friend. Mike Boddicker, a pleasure to spend the time with you. Thank you for the thrills and the memories that you gave Orioles fans, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here in Baltimore in a few weeks. All right.
Yes, I can't wait. I'm dying for crabs.
Hey,
I miss them so bad.
That will happen for sure. That's a Father's Day staple in these parts, so we all were enjoying them on Sunday night.
Oh, my wife was out there visiting, and she goes, we're out for crabs. I went, oh, I hate you. I just want some crabs.
I'll tell Stetka to make sure he takes you out for crabs while you're in town.
I tried calling Bill this morning, and he didn't answer, so I don't know.
We'll get on him about that for sure. Mike, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for spending the time with us.
You got it.
That's Mike
Boddicker,
guys. Legendary former Orioles pitcher, and obviously such a massive part of the Orioles winning the 1983 World Series, as he was outstanding throughout the season. Those playoffs, winning Game 2 of the World Series. Appreciate him taking the time for us this morning. And, we're going to try to talk with one of those guys every week between now and the end of the season, just to catch up and reminisce on the 83 World Series. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Continue to get me your responses for Would You Rather Wednesday. We will continue to share them throughout the day. Again, we give you a full day. So if you're somebody who listens later on in the day, And I think our buddy Randy Morgan, who writes for Drew, I think he's a listen later on in the day because he started tweeting me yesterday trying to explain the Gold Cup stuff to me, which I appreciate because I'm a fan, but I don't really know a whole lot about it. He was explaining to me that because of the Nations League and with guys maybe needing to participate because it's more European players than in the past, that's why it's a lesser roster than it typically is for the U.S. in the Gold Cup. But he also told me that, like, the Mexico and Canada rosters are they're not quite as defined B rosters as the U.S. roster is, which doesn't make me feel great about the U.S.'s chances in the Gold Cup, but also imagine if they won anyway. Then you'd feel really good, right? Like, then you'd feel unbelievably good about it. And he was also trying to explain some of the details of who specifically, like, was worth watching. I appreciate it. Randy was trying to help me out with that. But if you're someone who listens later on during the day, then what I would tell you to do is respond anyway, because you still count. We don't pick a winner until 24 hours later. So get in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. Even if you don't find the actual, even if you're just tweeting me your answer, even if it's not in response to a Would You Rather Wednesday, because you can't find them because we also tweet out quotes, that's fine. Just tweet in an answer, and you're in. Simple as that. Again, at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. We'll head out to Sandia. Are you serious?
We had a time zone, bit of a miscommunication there.
So that's not happening?
That is correct.
All right, we got to lock things up.
Yeah.
We gotta, we've had a bad stretch of late. The only okay thing is that I wanted to wrap up the 12 today anyway but that's disappointing. That's very disappointing, and we gotta tighten up a little bit around these parts. We're not going to San Diego. We're not talking to Matt Rambo because reasons. We'll come back in, and I don't know what we'll do, but we'll do it next on Glenn Clark Radio.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave Ginsburg remembers Goose as he looks back on the impact that late Tony Saragusa had both on and off the field here in Baltimore. Plus, he explains how Goose's kids are working to continue that legacy with the Goose Flights program. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles the path Tyler Wells has taken to becoming a star in the Orioles rotation. And you'll find a special summer travel guide with information about events and activities throughout the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know what's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
All right, back in here on GCR. Here's what we're going to do, because Griffin tells me there's maybe some small chance that we could squeeze Matt Rambo in before the show is over, but what we're going to do is, just in case, we'll knock out Tidbit and Tubular now. And then if it can happen, great. If not, we might just end. Like, we might just end the show, which is fine because we're going to do 2.5 hours tomorrow, or we did it yesterday or whatever. We're going to still give you plenty of show for the week. And I know you guys want to watch the baseball game anyway, starting at 12. So, that's what it is. So let's just go ahead and do that. We'll knock out Tidbit, we'll knock out Tubular, and then maybe we'll dance. And we'll see where we are at that point. Tidbit is brought to you today by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now and get $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after placing your first $5 bet. See this and other great sportsbook offers at PressBoxOnline.com/offers.
So Ellie De La Cruz and Will Benson, they both hit their first and second home runs in the same game. So last week, they both hit their first career home runs on the same day in the same game, and then they hit their second career home runs last night in the same game.
Well, how about that?
Yes, that is the third pair of teammates ever in MLB history to do that exact thing. Unfortunately, it's not like there's any notable guys on the list, but it's the third time ever.
Okay.
It was Rob Segadin and Andrew Tolles did it for the Dodgers in August of 2016.
Okay.
And then also Bernie Freiberg and Gabby Hartnett, who both had multi-home
my
games.
next guess.
Yeah. So I thought I was thinking about making you guess that one.
No, I would not have come up with that.
They also have 10 consecutive wins. So of course the Reds are coming into Baltimore next week since they're the hottest team in baseball.
They're 12-2 over the last 14 since they called up Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
And it's, the immediate parallel that you make is, boy, that sounds eerily similar to what happened when the Orioles, and I don't think they went 12-2, but the turnaround correlating with the arrival of one player sounds very similar to what we experienced here in Baltimore.
So with their 10 consecutive wins, they are tied for the third longest win streak by a team to lose 100 games the previous season. If they win 2 more, they will tie the 1890 Louisville Colonels for the longest win streak.
Didn't the Orioles have a 10-game win streak last year?
Yes.
Did they not win 100
So
games?
they're tied.
Did they not lose 100 games the previous year?
No, they had to. Yeah, they did. They definitely did.
Right?
So that's who they're tied with.
Okay.
They're tied with one of the Orioles are one of the teams that had
all right.
10-game losing streak
All
or
right.
winning streak. Excuse me.
Right.
And
But it ended at 10 for the Orioles, right? They didn't have
it ended at 10.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought it was a 10
Yes,
game.
it ended at 10 because I think they went to Tampa, right? And then
That sounds
I think that's
right.
where they lost it.
That sounds right.
Spencer Strider, he became the second pitcher ever to throw 300 strikeouts in his first 35 career starts. He joins
Who in the world knows?
Dwight Gooden.
Ah, okay.
Dwight Gooden
I mean, that was
and Spencer
it was
Strider.
certainly
only
a
two ever.
phenomenon. There's no question about that.
And Clayton Kershaw also picked up his 64th start of 7 innings pitched and no runs allowed. That is now the most in Dodgers history, and it also puts him at in MLB history. Well, it actually puts him a little bit further down in MLB history. But for my cutoff date for the tidbit today, I want to see if you can name the top 10 guys with the most starts of 7 innings, no runs allowed. Clayton Kershaw will be 11th since 1961.
Hang on. Say that again. You were kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I know. Since 1961.
Yes.
That's my cutoff date, so we can have a tighter list.
Because whatever you found only counted back to 60. You're acting like you did the research here.
Well, there were some older guys, and I wanted to include some more modern names
Sure.
in it, I guess. Although they're not really none are, I guess, active. 7 innings pitched, no runs allowed. So Kershaw,
nobody pitches 7 innings anymore.
Yeah, well, Kershaw does. He's 64th. He had 64 games of 7 innings, 64 starts.
So how many you had to have?
And he is 11th.
Who has the most
since 1960.
7 inning, no runs.
Correct.
7 innings or more, shutout.
Correct.
Palmer.
Jim Palmer is number 10. 65 games. So with Kershaw's next start, he will tie Jim Palmer.
Well, if he does that,
Yeah.
You said his next start.
Yeah, well, yeah, his next start of such.
Yeah, the next time he does this, if he does this again, which is not a guarantee. Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan is number 2 on this list.
Longevity being a factor there.
89 starts, 7 innings.
Greg
scoreless.
Maddux.
Greg Maddux is 3rd on this list.
Pedro Martinez.
Pedro Martinez.
He had a shorter career.
Just
That's
outside.
not again. People forget. Like when I talk about, I got into this conversation when we were trying to go over the who's won 4 Cy Young awards thing. I was like, people forget that Pedro Martinez's run was maybe not quite as short as Koufax's, but it was very close to it was not even a full 10 years of just brilliance, and it came and went.
He is 57, so he's just outside that top 10.
Glavin.
Tom Glavine is not in the top 10. 54.
It's not good that I only got 3 before I started struggling. That's not good. Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson is on this list. 73 starts of 7 innings of scoreless ball.
Steve Carlton.
Steve Carlton is on this list, right behind Randy Johnson. He'll be 7th on the list.
I'll try. You said 61 was the cutoff? Phil Niekro.
Phil Niekro is just outside as well.
Son of a bitch.
Only 60 starts.
He stinks.
Yeah, only 60 starts of 7 innings of scoreless ball.
Loser. What a loser. 61 was the cutoff for when like their career started, or
Yeah.
so Bob Gibson's not on the list.
Bob Gibson's not on the list.
Because he was still pitching in 61. I just didn't know.
Where's Bob Gibson? Bob Gibson had 56 in his career. So he wouldn't have been.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. And I caught that you accidentally said that none of them were active.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say Clemens.
Roger Clemens is number 1. 91 starts, 7 innings of scoreless baseball.
Yeah, that's on me. I should have said that immediately. Vida Blue.
Not Vida Blue.
Catfish Hunter.
Not Catfish.
I actually don't know what year's Catfish Hunter was, so I don't even know.
He had 50.
Roy Halladay.
Not Roy. Not the Doc.
How about How about Mike Messina?
Not Mike Messina. I think I'm looking for 4 more, right?
Yeah. I got 6. None of them are. I mean,
there is a Dodger, but he didn't spend his whole career on the Dodgers, so that's why Kershaw has the most starts for a Dodger.
Dodger that didn't spend his whole career with the Dodgers. That actually screwed me up more, so thank you for nothing.
He spent the back end of his career. Well, actually, I guess he finished his career with the Dodgers, but he was jumping around with different teams in the 80s.
That doesn't help me when you do it that way. Like,
should I just give it to you?
No,
okay,
you shouldn't just give it. Jesus. Seaver.
Seaver is on the list. 74 starts. He is top 5.
I didn't say Smoltz. I guess I should say Smoltz. But
not
I didn't
Smoltz.
think, 'cause I didn't. Yeah, he ended up being a reliever for a while in there. Who have I not said that would make sense here? I'm really just trying to think of the great pitchers. Is all I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, these
Shut up.
3.
God, you can't help yourself. Jack Morris.
Not Jack Morris.
Bert Blyleven.
Bert Blyleven is on this list. He is right ahead of Jim Palmer. 68 games, 68 starts, with 7 innings of scoreless baseball.
Gaylord Perry.
Gaylord Perry is just outside of the top 10 here.
Ferguson Jenkins.
Ferguson Jenkins also just outside.
I'm going to hate it if it is. Kurt Schilling.
Not Kurt Schilling.
How about... None of them are active. Juan Marichal?
Not Juan Marichal.
There are 2 more.
Yes. One whose name we say all the time, but not essentially because of his pitching.
What?
Yeah.
Tommy John.
Tommy John had... I collected 71 starts. He's tied with Steve Carlton. 71 starts of 7 innings of scoreless baseball. And last on this list, he is 4th. 79 starts. Don Sutton.
You didn't. You just told me.
Yeah, were you going to get it?
I might have. Who knows?
Okay,
Or we could have
sorry.
worked up to it. You know, it's only 11:38, Griff. And
Oh,
this isn't like the days where we're doing tidbit at 12:30. And I'm like, all right, we just got to move on. Although I'm sure anybody who's still listening at this point is actually probably thinking it's merciful that you went ahead and announced it, because that was dragging on for a little while. God.
It's Don Sutton. You want
You
to try
could
to
have
guess
at least-
all time?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have no interest.
Walter
in
Johnson
that.
has the most
that
all time.
That does make some
Yes.
sense. It does make sense. All right. God, Tubular is brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma does come in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. The reason why we're wrapping up early today, of course, is right high noon, Masson 2, because Sure. Orioles, Rays, Tyler Wells, and Taj Bradley. Has
That-
everybody
the
else
Mass
been
and
having?
Does the Mass and 2 thing bother you? That bothers you?
I just don't understand it. That's all. I just don't. I don't like. It doesn't. It in no ways actually affects me. The only time in my life that it ever affected me, I've told the story, is when I was down in Bethany Beach for a wedding.
And they didn't have.
And I was staying at a place, like an Airbnb type of deal or a rental place, that had Masson but didn't have Masson 2. And the Orioles were playing a huge game. This would have been 2012 in the playoff race. They're playing a huge game against, I think, Tampa that went something like 15, 16 innings. So I went to a bar to start watching it, and everything was fine until I found out that Bethany, because it's like the family beach, all the bars roll up at like 10 o'clock.
Right.
Like, they all close. Like, they were kicking. I was like, excuse me? I'm here to watch the game. Now, in the area where we have cell phones, not that big of a deal. Although we need to talk about, has the app been struggling for everybody else the way it's been struggling for me recently? Like, the app has stunk in the last week. It didn't work at all one day over the weekend. Like, or Friday,
really?
I think it was. Friday, maybe. The app didn't work even a little bit. Like, it just did not work.
I fortunately don't use the app.
When the app doesn't work, all you do is just go to the website and you watch it that way, right? Like, and so it's fine. But what the hell is going on with the app? And I would like to know if other people are having the same problem that I'm having, because it's very annoying. It's extraordinarily annoying for me.
It was cutting out because I was working at the radio station on Saturday, and the game would just like cut out, like at random times.
Well, why were you watching on the app? They have TVs at it.
No, yeah, it's like the TV, like just like
that's a different
cable.
conversation altogether. I don't know what that's.
It was only that was the only channel that it was happening to.
I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know if it's a Masson problem. Or
if you happen to live elsewhere, today's game is also on MLB Network, as Tyler Wells faces Taj Bradley just after noon. As we would have been talking about, tonight the World Lacrosse Men's World Championships gets underway out in San Diego. USA-Canada, 10 o'clock on ESPN2. Lots of former Maryland players on the team, not just Matt Rambo, but Michael Earhart, Jesse Bernhardt. Oh, God, who else?
Towson players,
Zach Goodrich and Towson. Who else am I forgetting about? I swear to God, there's like a whole ton of local connections on this team, and I can't even think of them for some reason off the top of my head. Connor Kelly is on that. Matthew Dunn, and then Ryan Conrad. Where did Ryan Conrad go to school? He went to because he played at Virginia, of course, but he's from here. He went to Blakefield. He went to Loyola. So they are all part of the Team USA roster for the World Championships, which get underway tonight. The rest of the baseball you can find at glennclarkradio.com, although I guess tonight, if you're not watching, there's no Orioles to watch. You might watch baseball, so maybe I'll go over it.
College World Series.
Yeah, there is that. MLB Network has Cubs Pirates, so that's at 12:30, so you won't watch that. They have the Draft Combine at 3:30, Braves Phillies at 6:30, Dodgers Angels at 9:30. ESPN Plus has Red Sox Twins at 7:40, MLB.TV for Mariners Yankees at 7, Nationals Cardinals at 4 on Masson. And as Griffin pointed out, tonight the College World Series continued. 2 more. These are also elimination.
It's like,
or these are the double elimination.
Yes, the
thing.
double elimination. So one
they
team
could
be
eliminated, but if the other team wins, they would play again.
I think LSU and Wake Forest, Wake Forest and Florida. If
have
they
not
lose,
lost.
Yeah, they've not
right.
lost.
So they have not lost. So they can eliminate, but they cannot be eliminated tonight. So Florida, TCU at 2 on ESPN, and then Wake Forest, LSU, which was the barn burner from the other day that everybody was talking about. You may just answer it.
I go for it.
Just go ahead.
So if you haven't canceled your Paramount
This
Plus,
is Glenn. Oh. Huh?
Okay. So it's
hell yeah!
an important one.
They want to give me some home security. You can always use that.
Yeah.
You can always use a little home security. Is there anything else sports-wise? Hang on a second. Vegas Aces, Phoenix and Mercury at 3:30 on NBA TV, and TBS for AEW Dynamite at 8. Some go ahead with the non-sports.
So if you haven't canceled your Paramount Plus subscriptions yet, like you were watching the US
I
game,
forgot to do that, and I need to. I thank you for the reminder.
Okay, you're welcome. Well, if you want to wait with the Penguins of Madagascar, which was one of my favorite shows as a kid, is out on Paramount Plus today.
I thought that was like a movie.
No, they did a TV show, like a spin-off TV show on like Nickelodeon, and I loved it as a kid. And that's
so they're putting it on.
Yeah, they're putting it on Paramount.
That's
Plus
what
finally.
you decided to put in Tubular.
Well, I just wanted to mention it since there's other things. Why I let off with it. I have more important things.
Sure. Sure.
MasterChef, of course, tonight.
That is important.
Always Sunny, new episode.
That's also important.
Breakpoint Part 2.
MasterChef is on Fox. Always Sunny is on FX.
Yes.
Or
yes.
regular
And
FX.
it'll also be available on Hulu.
Well, I understand that, but the idea is this is coming up tonight. If you want to watch it, here's where you can watch it type of bit that we do.
On Netflix, Breakpoint Part 2. As they
the tennis,
the tennis Drive to Survive. They're gonna look at.
Did you see the trailer for the Zendaya movie that was making the rounds yesterday?
I didn't want to watch it because it was gonna upset me.
Oh, because you're obsessed with Zendaya?
Yeah.
Well, why would it upset you? The fact that she's having sex with other gentlemen?
Exactly.
That they're not.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Isn't she with Tom Holland?
Yeah, I know. I feel bad for him too.
Why does you feel bad for him?
Well, because he also had to watch this trailer.
Well, I mean,
probably.
for God's sakes, I'm pretty sure. Being an actor, that he understands how this all works.
Challengers is the name of the movie.
Where she's like having a threesome with two other tennis players.
They're tennis players. That was.
I think they're all supposed to be, or is she just a tennis player? And
I
thought they were all tennis players. I didn't really.
We can find out.
I got a weird I got to be honest with you. The Zendaya thing is a very weird bit to me because the only the only knowledge I had of her.
She was a tennis player in the movie.
Well, she was for sure, but were the gentlemen also tennis players? I knew she was.
Yeah, they are actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. She was doing like grunt noises as she was playing, and everybody was making a big deal about it on the internet. I'm saying that like the Zendaya thing she was Jacoby Jones, or she was on the same season of Dancing with the Stars as Jacoby Jones, and weirdly she ended up coming to Baltimore and hanging out a couple of times. And I believe all she was at the time was like a Disney Channel person. Like, I don't know what.
Yeah, she was on Shake It Up.
If you say
along with
so.
Bella Thorne.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of these things.
This is my childhood.
She was on Dancing with the Stars, and she would be like on social media hanging out with Jacoby Jones. And so, she literally showed up at the Ravens practice facility one time, and it was a whole thing. But she was a child.
She was a child. Yeah,
and
back
so
in 2012. Yes,
it's a weird bit for me. Because that was all I knew of Zendaya until she started popping up. And even in the first Spider-Man movie, I'm pretty sure they were still pretty young.
Yeah.
And so
they were still, because they're my age, I think.
The idea of Zendaya sex symbol is kind of uncomfortable for me. Because it's one thing Topanga, who I grew up with, very comfortable with the idea of Topanga being a sex symbol because we were learning about ourselves.
So I guess Zendaya is my Topanga.
Maybe that might be the case. If you watched the show, I don't know if you were Boy Meets World. I watched obsessively, but it's just weird to me the thought of Zendaya, who I still see kind of as the child.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Being a sex symbol, that's still a kind of a weird.
It's like the dance moms dancers are all now.
I don't.
Turning,
I never see this doesn't because I don't know anything of them. I could not name to you.
You're fortunate.
I could not name to you one dance mom person ever. I don't know.
Abby Lee Dance Company
doesn't mean a thing. Was that Honey Boo Boo?
No, that was some other. That was some other thing. I forget what that show was called. But Dance Moms was just the little kids were dancing, and Abby Lee was very, very harsh on the kids. My sister watches it all the time and still does watch it, so that's why.
Not my area.
So Breakpoint Part 2, they're gonna look at Nick Kyrgios says his Wimbledon run last year, and then they also looked at help me out with Ilya
Tomljanovic.
Yes, exactly that. Along with Arina Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, and Frances Tiafoe also has a. They look into him in his
very good
in his runs. And
very good.
Secret Invasion. This is the big one. Disney Plus. Secret Invasion series premiere on Disney Plus. This is the Nick Fury series.
Oh, that's what this is. Okay,
yes, the Marvel.
Right, that is a big deal.
Yes, and apparently
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, you are gonna have to watch it. The Skrulls are it's a secret invasion of Skrulls.
Right.
And Nick Fury has to stop it, so we'll see him do some badass stuff.
Very good. Ooh, they announced the Women's World Cup roster today. I'll have to take a look at that when I get a chance. Very good. Thanks today to Mike Boddicker, and we'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Did I miss anything? Did I forget about?
No, not today.
But thanks to Mike Boddicker and Mike Boddicker. By the way, I believe this is back-to-back Wednesdays where we've had one guest. Maybe we institute those 4-day weeks. Maybe we start instituting that. I had flirted with that for a little while, and might be time to go ahead and institute that policy. It's been a struggle. Tomorrow on the program, we are scheduled to be joined by Lamont Wade, although we were scheduled to be joined by Lamont Wade today, and so who knows? He was out of the lineup last night. I think that has something to do with maybe why it was that he I don't know, but Lamont Wade was not able to join us today, and that's it all fell apart from there. But hopefully we'll chat with Lamont Wade tomorrow. Anything else?
Stuff and things.
Really?
Working on a lot.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. This is bad. Okay. If you've ever wanted to appear on Glenn Clark Radio, might be your chance. Might be the moment for you. Maybe reach out to Griffin. Eek. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Costas Inn, All-American Lacrosse, the Baltimore Orioles, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Wednesday. Go Birds. Duke sucks.